I think of the things that you listed as a reasons to doubt Donald Trump. I would say that withdrawing from the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty in 2019, and no, sorry, that was 2000 and when?
I believe that was I think it was 2019, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah, you're right, 2019. And then the assassination of Qasem Soleimani. I think that both of those examples are mistakes. I think that was a very, very terrible blunder on Trump's part. Both of those. The recent attacks on Iran, I don't see them the same way, because one thing that I know from the United States, inner plumbing of Washington D.C., is that the pressure on Trump to go to war against Iran, to join Israel in the war against Iran was tremendous, and a lot of people were talking about this. And Trump didn't want to do it, but he wasn't able to hold them back. And so what happened is that Trump didn't want a real war, so he gave them a fake one. And what I mean by this is that there were contacts between the Iranian leadership and the United States leadership, and I'm not privy to those to those contacts, obviously, but pretty much what happened is that the American side said, "Look, terribly sorry about this. We can't hold this back. We're going to have to give them some kind of a show. So we're going to have to bomb you. We're going to bomb here, here, and here. That's going to happen in about 48 hours. We're telling you so you can remove anything that's important and valuable to you. And then we understand that you're going to have to retaliate. So if you could be so kind to tell us exactly where so that we can evacuate our people." And that's exactly what happened. So it wasn't a war. It was a fake war. It was like World Wrestling Federation type of violence. Okay. And so then Trump climbs up on his high horse and says, "We obliterated Iranian nuclear program, obliterated it." And he's, to this day, he's insisting on this word. Why? Because Iran's nuclear program today is the same as Saddam's weapons of mass destruction program 20 years ago. It's the justification for war against Iran, but it's not the objective. Nobody cares about Iranian nuclear program. If Shah Reza Pahlavi was in charge in Tehran, they would build a nuclear program for Iran. They wouldn't care. The objective of the war against Iran is regime change. It has been the whole time. The nuclear program is merely the pretext, the justification. So what Trump did is he gave them a fake war, and he said, guess what? The nuclear program, it doesn't exist anymore. So the war is over. It's finished. Stop the fighting. And then, people started like, no, you didn't obliterate. Yes, we did. And he's insisting on that. Why? Because he obliterated the justification for war against Iran. But the collective West, the British, the French, NATO, the Israelis, they don't care about the nuclear program. They want regime change in Tehran. And then when they asked Donald Trump, do you want a regime change in Tehran? He said, no, I don't. And in fact, there's a lot of leaked information that there are very extensive, still to this day, very extensive talks between the United States and Tehran. And I have, okay, so another insight from Susan Kokinda is that apparently Trump in cabinet meetings is frequently referring to the supposed enemies of the United States as our so-called enemies, or he says people who are perceived to be our enemies. Meaning, when it comes to talking about Russia, North Korea, Iran, China and so forth, he's clearly not talking about them as being enemies. He's talking about them being our supposed enemy, or people who are perceived as our enemies. What I mean by this is that Trump has to navigate between domestic political realities, which have been entrenched in a certain way pretty much since 1947, since the British took control effectively of the American political establishment. You know, after they assassinated Franklin Delano Roosevelt and made Harry Truman the president. And you know, this is not something you can change overnight. And you know, if you need an example from the other side, we can talk about Vladimir Putin's response to the Ukraine crisis in 2014, which was profoundly disappointing to many people in Russia. And Vladimir Putin had the biggest decline in support and popularity for failing to intervene in the Donbass in 2014. People on TV in Russia were openly talking about Vladimir Putin betraying the Russian brethren in Ukraine. But he didn't. It's just that, you know, he judged that it wasn't, that the time was not right to intervene. Why? Probably because he himself was facing certain, you know, political realities where, you know, like if you did what your heart tells you is the right thing to do, you might end up burning too much of your political capital and then jeopardizing much more important items on the agenda that are higher priority. And if you fail those, then everything else fails too. I mean, I don't know that I'm, you know, like I don't know that I'm right about this, but the inevitable reality of political life is that whatever you do, you're burning up political capital. And you always have to choose which battles you fight and which battles you don't fight, or you delay, or you leave them for tomorrow.